Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. All right, let's transition to football. SEC Media Days ongoing up in Dallas. LSU took its turn at the mics and cameras and all that goes into that day up in Dallas yesterday, and Brian Kelly had a lot to say about his new quarterback. We'll start with some of the sound from yesterday. Coach Kelly talking about Garrett Nussmeier waiting for his chance.
I mean, I use the analogy is that, when you're the number two, you're it's kind of like a rental, right? You don't care if you ding it up or, you get a dent here. Well, maybe you guys do. But you're not as careful, I guess, right? But when you own the car, I mean, there's a sense of pride. You're very thoughtful in everything you do, and you can see that transformation with Garrett and everything that he does in terms of he's waited for this opportunity to drive this car, and nobody is going to mess with it. I mean, not one player is going to take away the opportunity for it to be successful. And that is why this level of accountability that I talked about is so high and it's so transparent. He's not afraid to call somebody out if they're not doing it the right way. And it doesn't matter whether you're an offensive player or a defensive player. He's waited for this chance.
BK doesn't care if he dings up a rental car. Just pay the overage, no big deal. Got a $100 million contract. Maybe some of you lowly riders are really concerned if you ding up the rental car, but not me, not Garrett Nussmeier. No, I think that there's a lot of truth to what he said there, and I think it's interesting. I have not spent a lot of time around Garrett Nussmeier. In fact, almost zero time around Garrett Nussmeier, but I did watch him practice a lot in his first spring at LSU, watched him practice in fall camp, and have seen a little bit of the maturation of Garrett Nussmeier over 3 years here in Baton Rouge. And I'll tell you, the thing that I noticed about him early on in his LSU career was the jubilance and joy that he played with at practice. When they'd hit a play, he'd go running down the field, yelling and screaming, waving his arms, jumping up on guys, patting them on the helmet. He was a joyous player at that point. Now, he's doing no media at that point. He's certainly not wearing a suit and being paraded around at SEC Media Days. It's a completely different environment than where he was as an 18-year-old in his first spring doing all of that. But I get the sense that there's been a great deal of maturity, and you could see that in the way he carries himself, and I think you can probably see that in the way that he plays. He turned the ball over like crazy in that first spring game. He turned the ball over every time he got an opportunity to play early on in his career, and he did not turn the ball over in the bowl game. And I think he didn't turn the ball over against Alabama either. So I think that you're seeing a maturation there of a guy that is starting to have everything kind of slow down and come into picture. There's a chance I'm reading too much into that, me looking at one guy practicing 2 years ago in the spring, one guy in a suit answering questions in media day. But I think it's just only natural that over the course of 3 years in college, certainly with me and a lot of people, you just kind of figure some things out as you go. And I think there's reason to believe that Garrett Nussmeier's kind of reached that point. Now, Brian Kelly spoke to what exactly he's learned from sitting back watching the best quarterback in the country do things last year.
Persistence, discipline, and I think it's more than anything else, I think it's given him a sense of he can be Garrett Nussmeier, but he can be a Garrett Nussmeier that doesn't put our football team in a negative situation. He's got weapons. He's got the ability to lead this football team without having to be cavalier or careless. And I think that that's what he's learned.
It's very interesting because that's the exact opposite thing Brian Kelly said about Jaden Daniels midway through the 2022 season. Remember when Jaden Daniels hadn't turned the ball over at all? And Brian Kelly said, he has no interceptions, and that sounds great, but maybe that means we're not taking enough chances. And when he talks about Garrett Nussmeier 2 years later, that was Jaden Daniels before his Heisman season. 2 years later, he's saying, he's not quite as cavalier. He needs to make sure he doesn't put our team in harm's way. You're coaching the opposite. You're coaching Jaden Daniels, hey, throw it. You're coaching Garrett Nussmeier, hey, just calm down. It's a very different message, and I think they're very, very different quarterbacks. That should come as no surprise to anyone. And I think the only perspective we have on this is Miles Brennan taking over for Joe Burrow in terms of Heisman Trophy, number one offense in the country, absolute juggernaut, 2 first-round wide receivers. Okay, they're all gone. What's next? And Miles Brennan was next. And Miles Brennan, while not Joe Burrow, is similar to Joe Burrow in terms of stature and kind of style of play. Joe's a better athlete, runs better, but they're both good size, not great size, good arm, pocket passers that were kind of running the same thing with the same offensive coordinator. I realized that, yes, you had lost Joe Brady, but Steve Ensminger was still there. This is a new offensive coordinator, although it's the quarterback coach, but it's a totally different skill set. So to me, it's not like you're going to have to watch Garrett Nussmeier try to run Jaden Daniels' offense. No. Jaden Daniels runs Jaden Daniels' offense. Garrett Nussmeier's got to run Garrett Nussmeier's offense. They're not the same. I could make the case that Miles Brennan needs to run Joe Burrow's offense. It's going to look very similar. This is not. And so I'm curious how that plays out. And Brian Kelly spoke to Garrett Nussmeier knowing that he can be kind of his own guy.
Well, I think he's had a great historical lesson here. You know, I mean, Jaden Daniels had to come in and hear about Joe Burrow as the Heisman Trophy winner. Now he's had to hear about Jaden Daniels as the Heisman Trophy winner. So history's been a great lesson. You know, he's had 2 Heisman Trophy winners in the last, 4 or 5 years. And so he knows that he has to blaze his own path and be his own guy. I think given that as just that lesson of watching Jaden over the last year and Jaden being his own guy has been just a great lesson for him, that he can be his own guy. He doesn't have to be Joe Burrow or Jaden Daniels.
Here's the deal with Garrett Nussmeier. I don't know if he's going to throw for 3,700 yards and 28 touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to throw for 2,700 touchdowns and 27. If he does that, he'll do pretty well. 2,700 yards and 11 touchdowns with 7 picks. Like, one of those is really good, one of those is not. I don't know what it's going to look like for certain. I have my thoughts, but I don't know. What I know is that LSU is not going to have to worry about his preparation, his attitude, his commitment, his demeanor, all the intangible things that you need from your quarterback. You're going to get from Garrett Nussmeier. He's not young. He's old. He's not new to the position or new to the school. He's been doing both a very long time. He's not coming from a background that just told him how great he was all the time and he's never dealt with adversity. No, he's coming from a background where he's been coached up his whole life. He understands what being a teammate means, and he's moved all over the place growing up. So it hasn't been handed to him on a silver platter. He's going to check all of those boxes until the ball is snapped. And that it's a comforting thing for sure. If you're an LSU fan, if you're an LSU coach, if you're part of that football program. And then what really matters will happen, and we'll see, and we'll react to it all. My gut tells me he's going to be great. I was listening to Texags Radio this morning because Moscona was on it. I was curious kind of what the angle was on their discussion. I've kind of been consuming a lot of SEC Media Days content from all around the league. And they said, where do you put Garrett Nussmeier in this hierarchy of SEC quarterbacks? And I think it's reasonable to suggest, okay, I'm not going to toss him right up there with Carson Beck today. That's not necessarily what you think. And you kind of look around the rest of the league and you go, okay, Quinn Ewers has got a few more skins on the wall. I'm probably not going to put him in that breath. And then you start to look at the guys who haven't necessarily played as much, but have a lot of talent. Neo Iamalieva, Connor Wigman. Those are guys you would look at as talented guys that haven't played a ton. Okay, I think he fits in with those guys. Joe Milton has played a lot, and Jackson Dart has played a lot. And there's some of these guys that you're Peyton Thorne and looking down at Florida at Graham Mertz. Like, those guys have played a ton, but is he as talented as some of those guys? Probably. Brady Cook doesn't run like Jalen Milroe, but I think it's reasonable to slot Garrett Nussmeier in there 5'6" in the SEC, and with the weapons around him, like, that should be a pretty damn good offense. It's a league that's got some really good quarterbacks in it. So I've been saying all summer, like, I feel pretty good about where LSU is at quarterback. I do. I don't think that, LSU's not going to skip a beat on offense. They will. But I think that you've got a guy who's ready to do this. And when you lose a quarterback to the NFL, which LSU just did, All you can ask is that he's ready to do it. We'll see. We'll get things started up against Southern Cal coming up on Labor Day weekend. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.